Diving into the materials you sent over
Yeah.
about food and energy, it's been really interesting. What we're really aiming for in this deep dive is, well, to cut through all the noise and pull out the genuinely useful stuff.
Yeah, practical things.
Exactly. The kind of information that can make a real difference in how you feel day to day, your energy levels, your overall health. We've got this ebook, Food for a Healthy Life, which seems like a good starting point.
Absolutely. And I think for you, the listener, the most important thing to grab right away is that this isn't about some, flash in the pan diet trend.
Right.
It's more about understanding the fundamental link, the connection between what you're putting in your body and how your body actually produces and uses energy.
Totally. Because right from the start, the foreword in chapter 1, they introduce this really interesting concept of our body having like two main ways of generating energy.
Yeah, the two systems.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. First, there's the aerobic system. You could think of it as the main engine, the workhorse,
Mm-hmm. It needs oxygen.
right? It uses oxygen. And it runs on the fuel we get from food, things like carbohydrates, fatty acids, amino acids.
All that good stuff.
And that's why when you're active using this system, your breathing speeds up, your heart rate increases,
They pull in more of that oxygen it needs. Makes sense.
and then for those moments when you need like a sudden burst of power, sprinting for a bus, maybe lifting something heavy,
Uh-huh. Quick, intense effort.
your body switches gears,
Yeah.
kicks into the anaerobic system. The key thing here, like you said, it doesn't need oxygen.
No, it taps into energy that's already stored up in your body for those really intense short bursts.
Right. So it's kind of like having your regular engine and then this extra turbo boost.
Good analogy.
But the big takeaway, I think, for the listener is that the quality of food you eat directly impacts how much potential energy you actually have available.
And how well those systems can even work.
Exactly. The book even points out that feeling tired, muscle fatigue, that stuff can often be traced right back to the kinds of foods we're eating.
Yeah, it's like trying to run that turbo boost you mentioned on, well, low-grade fuel.
It's just not going to perform, is it?
Not optimally, no. And if we link this to something lots of people experience, starting a new fitness plan all fired up,
Oh, yeah, full enthusiasm.
and then it just sort of fizzles out after a few weeks, the forward asks a really good question. Why does that happen so often?
It's so common, isn't it? You start strong, totally motivated, ready to hit those goals, and then, I don't know, life gets in the way. Or maybe the energy just isn't there and the momentum's gone.
Mm-hmm. And chapter 1 kind of gives some context for that. It suggests that, well, the world we live in is maybe less healthful than it was, say, a couple of decades ago,
Okay.
partly because of how our eating habits have changed. The food environment itself has shifted.
That really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the choices we make, maybe without even realizing it. The chapter even throws out a pretty stark statistic.
About weight.
Yeah, saying that in the U.S., a majority of people were already overweight, and the projection was for that number to climb even higher. It really makes you reflect a bit on your own, daily eating patterns.
Definitely. It's a prompt for self-assessment.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But it's not just about knowing what to do, is it? Because chapter 2 shifts focus a bit onto something maybe even more crucial, our mindset.
Ah, yes. The mental game.
It really emphasizes that your own internal drive, your motivation, that's actually more powerful than any external push, like from a trainer or even your doctor telling you what to do.
And what's interesting there is the focus on awareness, really becoming conscious of what you're eating and how it affects you.
Like truly understanding which foods are actually fueling you properly and which ones might be, well, holding you back or draining your energy.
Exactly. It requires a certain level of honesty about our habits.
Yeah, and making deliberate choices. The book is pretty direct, actually. It says we need to cut back on things like sugars, those unhealthy fats, refined carbs,
The usual suspects.
and actively make space for more health-boosting foods.
Yeah.
Now, the book itself kind of admits this might sound a little preachy.
Huh. Yeah, it can come across that way sometimes. But I think the core message is really about empowerment, wouldn't you say?
I think so. Taking control of what you eat is a huge way to take care of yourself.
And it doesn't have to mean deprivation. Chapter 2 does offer that positive angle that there are tasty, healthy alternatives out there.
Right. Alternatives to the less nutritious stuff.
Hmm.
The trick, it seems, is learning what they are and maybe how to whip them up.
Which sends us up nicely for chapter 3, where we start digging into some specific energy boosters, starting with honey and whole grains.
The dynamic duo.
Mm.
Honey gets described as this amazing natural energy source.
Nature's energy booster, yeah.
And it's not just about the quick energy. It also mentions potential benefits for immunity, using it as a natural remedy.
And the science behind the energy part is pretty neat. It's about the types of sugar in honey, glucose, and fructose.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, the glucose gives you a quick hit. It's absorbed fast. But the fructose, that's processed more slowly, so it provides a more sustained energy release over time.
Ah, so you get the immediate lift and some staying power.
Exactly. Which is why it's mentioned as being particularly good for athletes, helping performance, maybe reducing that muscle fatigue after exercise.
And it mentions helping keep blood sugar levels steady, which is huge for avoiding those energy spikes and crashes during the day.
Crucial for consistent energy.
Plus, the book points out how easy it is to actually use honey. Any age group, really.
Simple swaps.
Like a honey sandwich, maybe drizzle it on whole wheat toast, or use it in tea instead of regular sugar. Just simple stuff.
Yeah, and that's a much smarter strategy than reaching for, say, sugary drinks or processed snacks that give you that quick buzz followed by the inevitable slump.
Definitely. Which brings us to whole grains. They're presented as the better choice for long-lasting, dependable energy.
Compared to the refined options like white bread or sugary cereals, absolutely. It comes down to the type of carbohydrate.
Complex carbs, right?
Exactly. They take your body longer to break down, so the energy release is slower, more gradual. Like you said before, a slow-burning log versus kindling.
Keeps you going longer.
Yeah.
And the book lists quite a variety: wheat, oats, barley, bran rice, quinoa, even buckwheat. Loads of options.
And then all the products made from them, whole wheat flour, bread, pasta, it opens up a lot of possibilities beyond just, white bread.
It really does. And it's not only about the sustained energy, is it? Whole grains, other good stuff too,
Oh, yeah. Minerals, vitamins, those phytonutrients, the beneficial plant compounds, and fiber, of course. Lots of fiber.
which we know is super important.
Super important. And the book suggests that consistently choosing whole grains might help lower the risk of heart disease, manage cholesterol, maybe offer some protection against certain cancers, and even help with weight management.
So the clear message is, go for whole grain whenever possible.
Pretty much. Choose the brown rice over the white, the whole wheat bread over the white loaf. Simple swaps, big impact potentially.
Okay, so moving into chapter 4, the focus shifts again. This time to nuts and lean meat, another important category.
Definitely important nutrient sources. Nuts are described as these little nutrient powerhouses.
And versatile too. Eat them raw, cooked, add them to meals.
And it's interesting, the book takes a kind of broad view of nuts, not just the hard-shelled ones we usually think of.
Right. But what about their health benefits?
Well, they're highlighted for helping keep various health issues in check. Things like potentially reducing the risk of coronary heart disease, that's a big one.
Huge.
And almonds and walnuts get a specific shout out for possibly helping lower cholesterol levels.
That's good to know. And they're also recommended for people managing insulin resistance, like with type 2 diabetes.
Yes, that's mentioned too. Plus, they're framed as a much smarter choice when you get those snack cravings instead of reaching for, chips or cookies.
Because they have those essential fatty acids.
Exactly, another health bonus. And they're just so convenient, right? Grab and go, snack.
Super convenient. The chapter gives some specific examples too, doesn't it?
It does. Almonds, for instance, praised for their slow burn quality, helping stabilize blood lipids and blood sugar. Ties into that whole Mediterranean diet idea, too.
Okay. What else?
Brazil nuts, noted as a good source of omega-3s and calcium, but with a reminder about moderation. You don't need tons of them.
All right. Portion control.
And cashews, delicious on their own, healthier without added salt. And interestingly, used for oils in some places.
Huh. Didn't know that. Okay. So then it transitions to lean meat.
Yeah, and it acknowledges that, look, richer, fattier cuts can be enjoyable sometimes, a culinary treat.
Sure.
But for regular health, understanding the benefits of choosing leaner options is, well, wise.
So it gives tips on identifying those leaner cuts.
It does. For beef, things like round, chuck, sirloin, tenderloin. For pork or lamb, tenderloin, loin chops, leg.
And poultry.
Skinless breast is pointed out as the leanest poultry option.
That's really practical stuff. And it does mention that some people obviously choose not to eat meat at all.
Right, it acknowledges that, but says the focus here is on making healthier, lower-fat choices if you do eat meat.
And it clarifies that even white meat, while generally leaner than red, still contains some fat. It's not fat-free.
Good clarification. But the real highlight for lean meats, according to the book, is their protein content. High quality, pure protein.
Which is essential for Well, pretty much everything, right? Building tissues, repairing cells, immune function.
Absolutely critical. Cell structure, function, sustenance, formation all rely on protein. And lean meats are a great source of essential amino acids too, especially sulfur amino acids.
And it mentions their protein digests faster than, say, protein from beans or whole wheat.
Generally, yes, that's what the source indicates.
And we can't forget iron. Lean meat is a good source.
Very important. The book notes that iron deficiency can be sneaky, developing slowly without clear symptoms until anemia sets in. So reliable dietary sources are key.
Okay, so chapter 5 then kind of takes a step back and asks, why bother with all this?
Yeah.
What's the real motivation for eating healthier?
Yeah, the why. And it starts with a really common driver, getting a handle on your weight.
That's often the entry point for a lot of people, isn't it?
It often is, but the book quickly points out the benefits go way beyond the scale. Eating well helps ensure your body's essential systems are working properly.
Like your immune system, your digestive system.
Exactly, keeping that internal machinery running smoothly.
And then there's the long-term health aspect,
Mm.
protection against chronic diseases.
Big ones. Cardiovascular issues, heart disease, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. The book links healthy eating to reducing the risk of these.
Those are massive potential benefits. And here's one that might surprise some people. The cost savings.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle. The book argues that healthier eating can actually lead to lower grocery bills over time.
How so? Maybe fewer processed snacks and ready meals.
Could be part of it. And maybe more importantly, potentially significant savings down the line on healthcare costs linked to diet-related illnesses.
That makes sense. Investing in health now to save later.
And another interesting point is about reducing exposure to synthetic chemicals and toxins found in many processed foods.
So by choosing more whole foods, you naturally avoid some of that stuff.
Exactly. It aligns with that principle of leaning towards less man-made options.
It even touches on a potential link between healthier eating and maybe reducing cravings for other things like smoking or drinking too much.
Noting the social connections that sometimes go along with those habits too. It's all quite interconnected.
It really seems to be. And physically, eating better just makes you feel more capable, right?
Absolutely. The book connects it directly to your physical lifestyle, having more energy to work, exercise, travel, play, just be more active and productive.
A big contrast to feeling sluggish or limited by a more sedentary lifestyle.
Definitely. And finally, chapter 5 even brings up the social side. It mentions the sometimes unfair social pressures around weight.
Right, the social taboo, it calls it.
And suggests that taking control of your eating habits can positively impact social interactions, confidence, even finding a partner. It's looking at the broader picture.
It really covers a lot of ground, from the cellular level right up to social well-being.
It does. It emphasizes how comprehensive the impact of our food choices really is.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, the big takeaway message seems clear. Focus on a healthy, balanced diet for life, not some quick fix.
Exactly. Move away from those unhealthy, maybe even unsafe, popular diets and focus on sustainable, lifelong habits. And the final chapter, wrapping up, offers some really concrete tips for the listener.
Yeah, practical takeaways. It starts with understanding your own calorie needs, right?
Yes, emphasizing that it's individual. Depends on your metabolism, your activity level. It gives ballpark figures, maybe 2,000 for men, 1,500 for women, but stresses these need adjusting.
They're just starting points. And here's a really important one that busts a common myth. Don't fear all fats.
Crucial point. Our bodies need fat to function properly.
It's about the type of fat.
Precisely. Differentiating between the less healthy ones, like many animal fats, some vegetable oils that raise bad LDL cholesterol, and the beneficial ones.
Like the monounsaturated fats found in olive oil, nuts, fish oil, seed oils.
Right, those can actually help flush out extra cholesterol, according to the source.
Good to know. And carbohydrates. Still important.
Definitely, the body's main energy source. But again, it's about choosing the right carbs.
So complex carbs over simple ones.
You got it. Whole grain flour, veggies, oats, unprocessed grains, those are your friends. Avoid the sugar and refined white flour that cause those insulin spikes and can encourage weight gain.
And what about when we eat? Does timing matter?
It seems so. The book suggests eating larger meals earlier in the day could be better, as metabolism might be more efficient then.
So like a medium breakfast, large lunch, small dinner.
That's one suggestion. Or maybe 4 to 6 smaller meals spread throughout the day, depending on what works for you.
Okay. And for people worried about sticking to it, that feeling of deprivation.
The cheat meal concept comes in here.
Tell me about that.
It's the idea of allowing yourself one meal a week where you eat something you genuinely love. In moderation. Not a whole day binge, but one meal.
Why is that helpful?
Psychologically, it can make the whole process feel less restrictive, easier to stick with long term. Might even have some physiological benefits, shaking things up a bit.
That sounds way more doable. And it also recommends eating slowly.
Yeah, to give your brain time to register fullness. Helps you feel satisfied with fewer calories, prevents that feeling of being stuffed.
Makes sense. Slow down, savor it.
And the final point in the wrap-up. Super simple, but incredibly important. Drink plenty of water.
The magic elixir.
Pretty much. Good for energy, great for skin, helps you feel full.
Mm.
Swapping soda for water is one of the best simple changes you can make.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, it feels like this deep dive into your sources really lays out a solid foundation, doesn't it? For making smarter food choices that actually support energy and well-being.
I think so. It connects the dots really well.
So, considering everything we've talked about, how our physical health, our mindset, even our social lives are all linked, like these sources show. Here's a final thought for you, the listener.
Okay.
What's maybe one small but significant shift you feel most ready, most empowered to make in your daily eating habits right now? And just think about how that one single change might ripple outwards beyond just the food itself.
That's a great question to ponder. What's the first step you can take?
Exactly. We really encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. Pay attention to how different foods make you feel. Until our next deep dive, keep thinking about what truly nourishes you.